No, cause where y'all been at? I'm kidding. I know I was supposed to be here. I know I was supposed to film. I said every week. I know I did. I said that. I know. Um, but I'm here though. I'm here now. So like, yeah.
I may not be right for you, but I'm right for somebody. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So yeah, I'm back. Where have I been? School. Yeah, school was really beating me up. Like I don't understand why it was doing that, but school was going crazy. And I had work. I mean, no I don't, but I had work. So that was a lot. But I'm back now, so hey. How y'all doing? Hey. Oh, while I was gone, you guys missed a lot of looks. Like I had braids with beads. Yeah, that's cute, isn't it? I had braid cornrow going back and then down to the side. Cute, right? Also, I changed my Instagram name, so this is it now. So follow me there, please. But I actually was filming. In March, I filmed a video. I have to put that up. It's probably going to be up before this one. It should be up before this one if you know what you're doing. It should probably be up before this one. But I did film this video already. So I wanted to do story times without telling my stories because I just feel like something should be personal. I mean, I'm eventually going to tell story times, but I didn't want to just like start talking about my life and it would just be kind of weird that I become like a story time YouTuber. So I didn't want to do that. So I decided I like to read books and I read a lot of books and I like to tell people about the books that I read. So I decided to make a series called Storytime, but it's a book because I have a bunch of books. If I could show you my bookcase right now, I would, but I have a bunch of books that I read. The first book that I wanted to do was The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kiersten White. It's so cute. It's a New York Times bestselling author, which I feel like they all are, but it's really good. So I see why she was selling out. But yeah, I kind of did this book already. I did this video already. And here's some footage from that. Basically gonna be me giving a summary or like a retelling or like, you know when you tell somebody a movie like and this happened, that happened, basically. So hello, welcome back to the Butterfly Sanctuary. My name is D Mariposa. You can call me D and welcome. So one of the reasons why I didn't post this video already because it's literally in my phone right now. I'm using my phone to record because when I was doing the editing, I'm at my computer. When I was doing the editing, I just was not. When I was doing the editing, it just didn't, like I know it was okay, but it wasn't what I wanted it to be. Like I was talking so quickly, I was talking really fast. So half the time what I was saying you couldn't understand. And I don't want to release a story time or a video where you can't understand what I'm saying because like what's the point? Even though I'm still talking kind of quickly now, it was very fast in that video. I couldn't even decipher what I was trying to say. And the notes weren't clear because I was doing a book that I hadn't read in like a year. So at the time of making that video, I had not read the book in like a year. I just done like a paper on it. So I was reading the book and telling the book at the same time. And that did not work. I was getting dates wrong. I was getting character names messed up. And I was just like, I cannot release this. This doesn't make any sense. So I took notes, I reread the book, and now we're just gonna get into the video. These are my notes, just in case anybody's wondering. So let's just start with a little background about the book. So this book was released on the 200th anniversary of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So that's the original Frankenstein, you know, he created the monster, yada yada, stuff like that. But in this story, it's told from Elizabeth's perspective, and I'm not sure if Elizabeth is a canon character or just a made-up one. Either way, it's a very good story. And it's basically her dealings with Victor. It's basically her story set in this Frankenstein time. Let's just read a little bit of the synopsis, not the whole thing, just the... So it says, time with the 200th anniversary of Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein is a stunning reimagination of the classic, speaking to the fears we all bury deep inside. So basically, it's just retelling, told from this point of view, of the classic Frankenstein, basically. So here are the people that we need to know. Elizabeth or Liz, Victor, William, Ernest, Henry, Mary, Justine, Victor's dad or the judge, and Frankenstein. And this book is kind of told through, we kind of get placed in the middle of the story, and then throughout Liz's narrative we know some of the background of how they came to be living the way that they are living. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the background of each character and then jump into where the story starts, because it can be a little confusing when Liz talks about certain things, but it's like that wasn't really in the beginning of the book. If you hadn't read any of the background or seen any of the flashbacks, you would be a little confused about what's happening. So first we're going to start with Liz. So Liz comes from Austrian royalty, so her family is, I think her dad is an Austrian king, but they have a lot of money, they're rich, they're wealthy, they're honorable in society. She just comes from royalty. At around 8 years old, she's kidnapped or taken and sold to Victor's family as Victor's pet. So this leads us into who Victor is. So Victor, he is the son of the judge, and I don't believe they gave the mother a name, but the mother was important in the flashback. He's the son of the judge, and the judge is, you know, wealthy too. They've got money. They have a image to protect, stuff like that. Like he's a mayor, kind of, but he's a judge, you know. Think of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, you know, Will and then Uncle Phil. So Victor's dad would kind of be like Uncle Phil in the sense of the stature and stuff that he has as a judge. And Victor, he's a very odd child. Let's put it that way. He's very odd. He doesn't get along well with other people. He doesn't get along well with his brothers, and his brothers who are William and Ernest. And his parents, they kind of neglect him a lot because, as you can see, they bought a person to play with him, to be his pet. And it wasn't even under the guise of like, oh, she's just here to help out in the house. She was specifically bought for him, like a pet or a dog or a cat. She was supposed to be there when he woke up. She slept in his bed. She literally only had dealings with him. And as she got older, then she would know, you know, clean around the house or cook and stuff like that. But her main purpose was to socialize, I believe, Victor, because he learns a lot of his behavior through her. So Ernest, like I said, Ernest is Victor's brother, and he's the middle child, because after that we get William, who was his youngest brother. So Ernest and William have importance because, again, Victor does not socialize with them well. Henry is Victor and Liz's childhood friend. Not so much, well, he is Liz's childhood friend, but I don't want to paint her as a way as she was actually part of the family, because again, she was literally kind of Victor's pet. But wherever Victor went, she went. So when Henry is the son of a governor. So the judge wants to keep a good image. So he keeps a good image with the governor. You want to have a lot of friends, you know, networking and stuff of that nature. So the judge and the governor being Henry's dad, they decided, well, their kids need to be friends too. Now, like I said, Victor is not he's not an ordinary person. He doesn't like to talk to other people besides Liz. Henry is not very fond of Victor. He finds Victor to be annoying, but because, you know, they have to keep up appearances and their parents want them to be friends, they are friendly with each other. But Henry much prefers Liz. Now Justine is the maid/nanny in the house, and she wasn't there when Liz was first bought. Liz was bought at like 8, and then around 16 Liz found Justine in town. I have to point out that Victor and his family, they live in France. They live in a mountainous area in France, so whenever they want to go places, they have to take a rowboat, and so they have to row to town to get stuff. So one day, Victor, Henry, and Liz, they go to town because Liz wanted ribbons, and while they're there, Liz hears this lady beating this child. Well, not a child, Justine's like 16 this time, but she hears this lady beating up a person on the street. And Liz goes to investigate, and she sees that Justine is being beaten up by her mother. And Justine is just taking it because she's a very positive person. Her mother had been drilling in her that she was worthless and that she deserved this type of treatment. So Liz realized that this is wrong, obviously, and she tells the lady to stop beating up Justine, and the lady's like, I'm her mother, I can do whatever I want. And then Liz is like, I'll buy her from you, basically. I'll buy her and you don't have to beat her up anymore. And she's like, fine, give me the money. And she goes to Victor and she's like, hey, I want to buy this girl. I don't like the way her mom is treating her. And Victor's kind of like, anything for you, Liz. So they buy Justine, and they needed a nanny at the house because I think around this time Victor's mom had died and William was still fairly young. So they take Justine in, and now she's a part of the family, and she loves William so much. Like, that's her favorite. Like, she obviously was purchased to be his nanny, but she loves him so much. Like, he's her own kid. Next we have Mary. Mary comes up later in the story, but I just have to tell you that Mary is a part of the story. I'm gonna give more of her background when we find her in the story because they kind of tell us everything about her when we see her in the story. What you need to know about Victor's dad is, again, he's emotionally distant from his kids. He lets other people raise them, obviously, and he focuses a lot on money, which comes into play into why we even see the story unfold in the first place. But yeah, he focuses more on money, and he's emotionally distant from his kids. Frankenstein, just like Mary, is introduced later, but he is our presumed villain. Now that you know all the background, now we can start where the book picks up in The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kiersten White. So the book starts with us hearing Liz talk about how the judge is short on money. He doesn't have a lot of money, as for some reason, I guess they were falling on hard times. And Liz is scared for her safety because she knows that her job is to be with Victor, but Victor has gone off to college. So she really isn't a necessity there anymore. I mean, we have Justine, who's the nanny to William, and Liz, she might cook and clean here and there, but they have chefs for that. They have cleaning ladies for that. So Liz is like,
okay, I need to figure out how I'm going to stay here because Victor's not here and they don't really need me for anything and I don't have any purpose.
So she thinks, I need to go find Victor. So she and Justine, they go to Germany to look for Victor because she needed to prove to the judge that I need to be here, I'm a necessity. And plus, Victor had not been answering phone calls, he had not been sending letters, he was just kind of MIA in Germany. And she thought, I'll bring back your son and I'll prove my worthiness and you won't have to get rid of me because, you know, she's taking up money by food and stuff like that. So I'm worth the money, basically. When they go to Germany, they ask around for Victor and they find a bookshop. So this bookshop is owned by Mary's uncle. So this is where we're introduced to Mary. And Mary's like,
yeah, he used to come in a lot and used to talk to my uncle and stuff like that. And he loved these books surrounding death and life, and he asked me for a specific book, but I haven't been able to get into contact with him. So if you could you tell him when you see him I have the book in?
And Liz and Justine find this kind of strange because if Victor asks for a book, he wants it. If he asks for information about something, he needs it. Like, he's not gonna ask for things he doesn't want or need. And they thought it was strange that he hadn't come for the book. And so they started to get even more scared because it's, you're not answering phone calls, you're not answering letters, you won't pick up this book. So they go to his college. And he's supposed to be sitting on the dorms in the college. And when they get there, they meet an advisor that tells him that Victor had dropped out of school. And he was kind of angry. He was in a huff when he dropped out. Apparently, a professor told him something about death or life that he didn't agree with. He didn't agree with his reasoning or his thinking. He thought the man was a dummy, basically. So he said, well, this school is obviously stupid. They have people here that work like you. I need to get out of here. So he basically left, and they track him down an apartment in this really bad part of town in Germany. I don't remember if they gave it a name. I don't remember if they gave it a name, but it was like rundown houses. There was grave robberies. The health facilities were terrible, and they couldn't believe that Victor, because remember, he's a kind of perfectionist, meticulous kind of person. They couldn't believe that he would be living in a part of town like this, especially in the house that they find him in. So they find his apartment through some leads in the neighborhood they're living in. In that neighborhood, in that environment, he's kind of sticking out like a sore thumb. Like you know when you can tell someone's not from somewhere because they kind of just don't look like they belong there. So everyone kind of knew who Victor was, and they're like, yeah, he lives basically here and he's kind of strange, but whatever. We haven't seen him a little bit. But maybe you could go talk to him. So Liz is obviously very worried at this point because Victor is not acting like Victor. Victor likes cleanliness, he likes perfection, he's meticulous, he's very particular about everything. And she's like,
he's dropped out of school, he's not answering phone calls, he's not sending letters, he's living in this town that doesn't even represent what he portrays. There has to be something wrong.
So they find his apartment and he is deathly sick on his bed. And his place is disgusting. There's dirt on the floor, there's water dripping, the oven is not up to date. It's just disgusting. Liz couldn't believe it. And he's sick, so they're like, we have to take him to the hospital. So they take him to the hospital, and Liz is like,
what were you doing in that apartment? Why did you drop out of school? I don't understand what's going on with you.
And all Victor can say is,
I'm so happy to see you. I've missed you. How have you been?
He's just so happy to see his Liz, right? That was the light in his life, basically. And Liz is like,
okay, well, you're still kind of sick, and I'm gonna go back to your apartment and clean some stuff up for you. Don't even worry about it.
And Victor's like,
you don't really have to do that, just stay with me.
And Liz is like,
no, I want to go. Like, I'm gonna go clean up for you. Don't even worry.
and so she leaves, and she was really pressed about cleaning up the apartment because she knew the image that would happen. She knew the reputation that Victor would assume if the son of the governor in France was living in this terrible place in Germany. And she just knew that it would be like a field day for the media and press, basically, like if they had media and press. She knew it would be a field day for the newspapers and stuff like that. So she went to his house and she cleaned it up, and she was like,
actually, I need to get rid of any evidence that he even lived here.
So she decides to burn the place down, as one does. And they had faulty wiring in the apartment. The oven was terrible, the fridge was it was bad, faulty wiring. So she basically she's about to light the oven on fire, and she hears a noise upstairs, like in the attic of the apartment. And so she's like,
I thought it was just me in here.
so she goes upstairs to the attic and she sees a crow, and she's like,
okay, that crow made a lot of noise, but whatever, let me get back to burning down the house.
so she lights the oven on fire, and she knows that whoever comes to see, this house is burning down, they're not really gonna know what caused it because it's faulty wiring and stuff like that. So it's not really arson, but girl, it was arson. So she leaves the house. Well, it was kind of like an apartment house, but I just want to say house because he was the only one living there, but it was structured like an apartment. She gets out and she's watching the house burn. I guess she wanted to know if it was really gonna burn. I don't know. She's watching the house burn, and then out of the corner of her eye, she sees this figure jump out of the house window, out of the attic window, into the lake. Now my girl Liz, she's like,
did I commit murder?
because this figure, she assumes the person just jumped out of the window into the lake, and she's confused. But she just laughs it off, dusts it off.
She said, oh, it was probably that bird. Yeah, it was the bird. Yeah.
And she goes back to the hospital, and Victor, he's questioning her. He's like,
Did you see anything in the apartment? Did you find anything? I just, I might have left my sneakers there.
I don't know. He's questioning her about he wants to know if she saw anything in the apartment. And she's like,
no, just a lot of dirt, a lot of water, It was nothing. Like, I didn't see nothing.
So now they're both lying to each other because Victor wants to know, did you find anything in there? And Liz is like, I didn't see nothing jump out no window, if that's what you mean, because if that's what you asking me, then no, like, I did not see that happen. But she saw it happen. So they just act, which is so interesting to me because they know each other so well. They know when the other is lying, but they just, you know, sweep it under the rug because, again, Liz doesn't want to know, or Liz doesn't want to think she just killed a person, and she really thinks she imagined it. And Victor, he must know some knowledge about what was in his attic. So, people. So remember, Liz was on this journey here to get Victor to bring him back to France and show the judge, hey, I belong here, like, I'm supposed to be here. So they decide they're all gonna go back to France, and well, they kind of had to because Victor was really sick, and it was like, you cannot go back to that apartment, I burned it down, there's no reason for you to stay here. And he was really fighting to stay, and Liz was like, no, you have to go back home, your family misses you, the judge misses you, you know, you need to go back. So they all go back to France, and Justine, she really wanted to go back too because the whole time she was in Germany, she was like,
I miss William, I want to see William, where is William?
she loves William so much. So they all go back to France, and the judge is like,
thank you so much, Liz, for bringing my son back. That's amazing.
She's like, you know, it's what I do.
and everything seems to be normal. But remember, Liz knows Victor, and he's acting kind of strange. He's going off and doing things by himself. Remember, it's Liz and Victor against the world, two peas in a pod for lifers. Like, wherever Victor goes, Liz goes. And it started becoming,
Oh, Liz, I'm gonna take a walk by myself.
and Liz is like,
By yourself? When did we start doing that? Like, okay, whatever.
so Liz is a little nosy and she follows him. So one day he goes off on a walk by himself and she follows him. And remember, they live in a mountainous area. They live kind of at the base of some mountains, and Victor goes up into the mountains. So you know there's an issue there. We never go into the mountains. We stay at the base where we live with the grass and the forest. Victor goes up into the mountains, so Liz follows him. And when she gets up there, he's kind of arguing with somebody, and this person, we don't know who this is, they're like,
If you don't make me a wife, if you don't find me a wife, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to tell your secret. I'm getting your whole family. Everything's done. Everything's dead.
and Victor's like,
I don't take two kinds of threats, so do what you gotta do, but you're not gonna rush me. I'm gonna give you what I'm giving you when I give it to you.
and Liz is like,
What is going on?
but she can't say anything because she's not supposed to be there. And Victor, he's putting on this face like, I'm not scared of you, I'm not scared of this monster, whatever, do what you want to do. But Liz can see right through that, and she notices that he's kind of moving shaky. And so now Liz is even more afraid because first this person is threatening to kill your family if you don't do something for him, and you're putting up the front like, yeah, you're not scared, but I know you're scared. And Victor does not scare easy. He's not afraid of anything. So if he's afraid of something, Liz knows, okay, this is something to think about because you got him scared. All right, so she runs back down and she doesn't ask Victor anything about it, as they do. They just kind of save face in front of each other and be like, oh no, I'm fine, everything's fine, I'm great. But they're lying. Nothing is fine, nothing is great. They just sweep a lot of things underneath the rug. So yeah, now Liz is on edge about this person in the mountains who she calls the monster, because when she looked at him, or it, she couldn't tell if it was, she could tell that it was maybe male, but she couldn't tell if it was human. It had a weird voice and it was misshapen, but she couldn't really see properly. So she was just like, this monster needs to chill. One day, Liz is like, let's all go outside and have a picnic, because Victor had been cooped up in his room a lot, and it just was feeling weird in the house. They never really went outside anymore. The judge was focused on whatever the judge does. Justine and William, you know, they're happy. But Liz is like, it's not, the house has never really been a comfortable kind of place, but they had some type of normalcy already and regularity already. And when Victor came back, it was just weird because he wasn't acting like himself, and on top of that, he really wasn't spending a lot of time with Liz. And that was baffling to her, because the only reason I really brought you back is to show that you should be here. And plus she kind of missed him because, you know, she's in love with him. But it's just like, it was kind of weird in the house. So William wants to go on a picnic, and Liz is like, yeah, let's go on a picnic. We should all go on a picnic. Let's go outside, have fun. You know, Justine, she's super positive. She's with everything. Let's go. And the judge, I believe he goes with them. Yeah, the judge goes with them. So everyone in the house goes outside and they have a little picnic. And the food must have been really good because they all fell asleep outside. So I guess, you know, an hour or two after they all fall asleep, Liz wakes up and it's just her and the judge on the picnic blanket. There's no Justine, there's no William, there's no Victor. And Liz is confused because Justine doesn't just go off without telling people she's going somewhere. Because remember, she's dealing with the child. Justine is in charge of taking care of William. She's not just gonna leave with the child and go off in the forest where there's, you know, predators that could hurt her. So she's not just gonna leave and not say where she's going. She's very considerate like that. And Victor, he might wander off, but it was very weird for Justine to be gone, especially because William was gone and there was like no note. So Liz is confused. She's like,
where is Justine? Where's William? Where's Victor?
She just assumes that Justine and William went off to play. So she starts walking around and she finds Victor and she's like,
Victor, have you seen Justine and William?
And Victor's like,
I would just come to ask you the same thing. I can't find them. I don't know where they are.
and so now Liz is in a panic because remember, before that, Victor went up into the mountains to meet with the monster and the monster threatened to kill the family. So Liz is thinking, oh my gosh, something happened to Justine and William. The monster must have come down here and did something. So they go off, they split up to go find them. And they wake the judge. They're like, Judge, like, William's gone, Justine is gone. And she's like, okay, let's go. Like, he's like, okay, let's go look for them. And Victor, he's like, hey guys, I found something. And Liz goes to him and he's holding, come on, you gotta tell it. He's holding William. So now y'all like, D, what you mean? Like, he found William, they was playing, right? He's holding William's dead, lifeless body. So, right, I'm confused. Like, what do you mean he's dead? I want to know the same thing. He's holding William and he's dead. It's so crazy, like. And it's not even the fact that he's just dead. He's been choked to death. Now, William is 5 years old this time. A 5-year-old child. A child of the age of 5 years. And he's been choked to death and left in the forest. So now Liz is in a panic. She's like, okay, William's dead. William doesn't go anywhere without Justine. Where is Justine? Because if William is dead, that means Justine might be dead. So now they're running around the estate. They're frantic and they get to the barn. And Justine is passed out in the hay. And in her hand is William's locket. In her hand is William's locket. So now I'm like, 2 + 2 is no longer equaling 4. I say to myself, self, are they trying to tell me right now, right here, that Justine kills William? Her son? Yeah, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. So the judge, you know, he's a judge, I guess. As soon as he sees that locket in Justine's hands, he's like, yo, call the police. Get him in here. Because that is William's locket. That is around his neck. Which is not around his neck right now because his neck... Because he's no longer living. And here you go with the locket in your hand. So it just seems like...
Wait, like, I don't know. Who? William's dead? What?
She's confused. She's confused. She's distraught. She's in a panic. She's sad. She's grieving. She doesn't remember how she got to the barn. She doesn't remember laying down in the hay. She doesn't remember anything about what happens after the picnic. She just remembers going to sleep and then waking up in the hay with the locket. And the judge is like, I don't buy it. Put her in cuffs. And now she's crying and she's scared. She doesn't know what she did. She doesn't know what happened. And Liz is like, this is not true. This is false. She didn't do this, guys. Like, she did not do this. Like, so now the police are taking Justine away and Liz is begging and pleading. She's like, please, like, let's just hear her out. Like, she didn't do this. I know she didn't. This is my friend. I know her. She would never. And the judge is like, I don't want to hear it. Take her away. And then Liz pulls Victor to the side and she's like,
Victor, you have to do something. Like, I know Justine didn't do this. You have to go to the police and tell them that the monster killed William.
So then Victor's like,
What monster? What you know about a monster? Use monster in a sentence.
and Liz is like,
Look, I know you didn't want me following you. I know that I wasn't supposed to follow you to the mountains, but I saw you talking to the monster and I heard the threat. You need to help Justine.
and so Victor, he has to move past her knowing about the monster now because she was never supposed to know about the monster. He did not tell her about the monster. He's kind of mad that she knows, but he's like, you know what? We have bigger things to focus on right now. And he's like,
Okay, fine. I will go down to the police station tomorrow morning and I will get this all sorted out. Like, I'm not gonna let them kill Justine.
and Liz is like, okay, thank you. Like, so the next day, Victor goes down to the police station and, you know, Liz is back at home and she's waiting. And then Victor comes back and he's like, they hung Justine this morning. So now Liz and I are confused. Because what do you mean they hung Justine this morning? What do you mean they hung Justine this morning? This morning? So Liz is like,
I thought you were going to go down there and talk to the police. I thought you were going to tell them that Justine didn't do this. What do you mean she was hung this morning? Hung? Like she's dead?
and Victor's like,
Listen, there was nothing I could do. Like, I can't tell them about the monster. They're not gonna believe me. They don't even know anything about a monster. Look, I just went down there. I tried to plead my case and it didn't work.
so now Liz is super distraught and she's just growing this hatred in her heart for the monster. She's like, the monster took William and by proxy he took Justine, and though Justine was like her friend, like her bestie, her everything, like the minute that she bought Justine on the street, that was her friend forever. And not the type of friendship that Liz and Victor have, the type of we're sisters. You know, we've both been through some trauma and we both love each other. And remember, Justine went all the way to Germany with Liz to find Victor. Justine didn't have to do that. She could have stayed back with William. But they loved each other so much. They were such good friends that she would go anywhere with Liz to make sure that Liz was happy. And Liz couldn't believe that this was happening to her, and she started to get this hatred and this anger for the monster. So now Liz is also spooked because 2 people are dead now by the hands of this monster, basically. I need to start really paying more attention to what's going on with Victor. So she keeps following Victor, and she follows Victor to another meeting with the monster. And this time the monster is like,
You're running out of time. Hurry up and get me my wife, or there's gonna be problems.
and Victor is like,
I'm working on it. I got it. Don't worry. You're gonna get your wife. Okay, please stop harassing me.
and this time Liz is furious because, mind you, she already knows about the monster at this point. Victor didn't tell her any more details about the monster. He just knows that she knows about the monster, but he did tell her, stop following me, okay? It's not safe. That monster is dangerous. Stop following me. And when he comes back home, Liz is like going off on him. She's like,
How could you promise that monster anything? After what he did to William, after what he did to Justine, how could you give him anything?
And Victor is like,
Just stay out of it, okay? It's my business, and I told you to stop following me, okay? You're gonna get hurt. Stop following me.
and she's like, whatever, they're mad. He goes off again into the night. But again, she follows him. So he goes to this area that I think is near the cemetery, and has this body on this table that he's operating on. And Liz is thoroughly confused. So she goes over, when Victor's not looking, he walked away for a little bit. She goes over to the table, and she's looking at the person on the table, on the slab that he was working on. And she's like, this is Justine. She's watching Justine's dead body right in front of her on this table, and Victor has cut her open and sewn up things. It's horrific for her to see, because this is her friend and she doesn't want to see her in a position like this. She wants her to rest in peace, and here Victor is working on her, and she gets so mad that she takes the body and takes it back to the cemetery and buries it. And she just goes back home, and again she tells Victor nothing about what happened. She doesn't tell him about finding Justine's body, nothing. She just goes back home, and then shortly after that Victor comes home in a huff, and they don't really talk. So Liz has been thinking now. She's like, okay, maybe this monster is a body just like Justine's, and he's been sewn up and cut up and created to be whatever he is. And the monster has to be blackmailing Victor and telling him to make him a wife or make him a bride. And that's why he was operating on Justine. And she doesn't want Victor to operate on Justine anymore. So she's like, I need to marry Victor. We need to get married and go away from this place so the monster can't find us, and therefore Victor won't have to do the monster's bidding or be under the control of the monster, because we'll be far away and he can't follow us. So one day they're in the rowboat again, and I have no idea where they were going, but they were in the rowboat, and Victor proposes to Liz, and she's excited because, you know, she loves him, whatever, but she can't really like fully feel the excitement, because now she's thinking, okay, we need to get married fast so that we can get away from here. And she's like, let's get married tomorrow. And Victor's like, okay, we're gonna get married tomorrow. And their plan was their family had a summer house that wasn't too far away. You could roll there pretty fast in the rowboat. And they're like, so Liz is like, when we get married, let's live in that little summer house that, you know, I first met you in, because, you know, we want our own space, we want our own place or whatever. And Victor's like, okay, yeah, that'd be good. We'd have privacy, stuff like that. So the next day they get married, and after they're married, they sign the papers. The judge tells Liz that she has a lot of inheritance from her rich father, the Austrian king or the royalty. And the judge is like, you know, I'm having some money problems, and I just feel like you should give me some of that inheritance because of all the years I took care of you. Like, I took care of you all these years. You should give me some of this money. And Victor gets really mad. He's like,
You knew that she was Austrian royalty? Like, you knew that she was kidnapped and sold to us, and you said nothing?
and the judge is like,
well, I'm no idiot. I'm not gonna buy a girl that's worthless.
and Victor's like,
Are you dumb? Like, you let this girl was kidnapped. You could have returned her to her father. Like, what are you talking about?
and then they start arguing, and Liz is like, she's really focused on the monster coming to kill them at any point now. And she's like, no,
It's fine. You can have some of the money. I'll take the rest. Let's just get out of here.
and Victor's like, okay, let's just go. So the judge gives her paperwork, and they go off to the little summer home on the other island. So once they're inside the house, they're inside now, and everything's kind of calming down. Liz is feeling better because they're far away from the monster. She feels like finally this whole thing is over. Everything's fine now. And Victor leaves the room to, I guess, to freshen up or something. I can't remember why he left, but inevitably Liz is left in a room alone. And when she's in the room, even though, you know, she should be excited, this is her wedding night and we're away from the monster, she keeps thinking about the monster a little bit more. And she notices this book on the desk in the room, and she knows it's Victor's journal, and he had been writing a lot of stuff in there. And she just picks it up, you know, just to see what he's been writing and stuff. And she starts to find this detailed manual or description of the monster. Its hands, its eyes, its lips, its nose, its legs, everything. It basically details the monster to a T, everything about it, procedures on how the monster was created. And she knows this is all Victor's work, because remember, everyone has known that Victor has this fascination with, everyone knows that Victor had this fascination with death. He has this weird interest in it. Remember, Victor was operating on Justine, and she found details about the procedure of operating on Justine in the journal. And now Liz is focusing on the monster's hands, because she remembers that William was choked to death, but the finger marks on his neck were long and slender. They were thin. And according to this book, this monster has thick, kind of stubbyish fingers. He has thick, stubbyish kind of fingers. And so Liz is like, slender, thick, slender, thick. There's no way this monster could have choked William. Plausibly, scientifically, theoretically, that would not make sense. If anything, if he tried to choke William, he would have just crushed him because of how big his hands were. You hear that? They're coming for him right now. Victor comes back in the room and she puts the journal away. And she says,
Victor, what happened to your brother?
And he's like,
Which one?
and I'm like, what do you mean, which one? You got Ernest, you got William. We know that Ernest went off to military camp. They said that before. Ernest went off to military camp. It wasn't that important before, so that's why I didn't say it. But when Victor was coming back to the house, Ernest went off to military camp. So, to our knowledge, you only have Ernest and William. And Ernest is not here. Did you kill Ernest? Like, now we're confused. So she's like,
What do you mean, which one?
and he's like,
I have two brothers that died. Which one do you mean?
I'm thinking, how did he know that she meant death? She could have just been saying, what happened to Ernest? So Liz is like,
Well, tell me about the other brother.
and he's like,
Robert died by accident. You know that.
and Liz was like,
And William?
and Victor's like,
What do you mean, and William? Remember, I found him with you, and plus the necklace was found on Justine.
and this sends Liz into a fury. She just starts flipping out. She's like, don't take me for idiot. She's like, basically, she's like, don't try to play me for a fool right now. I taught you how to frame people. I know when you're lying. And so he just cuts the act now. She had been teaching him how to get away with murder for so long, and she thought she was just protecting her place there, but she was really breeding this monster, and it really all came out this night. So they're arguing now, and he's like, exactly, you taught me how to do this. I'm this way because of you. You made me like this. What got me is that she is younger than him. He's older than her, and he behaves as if he's smarter than her, but she taught him all the stuff that made him the way he is. So it's kind of weird, because you entrusted this 8-year-old to train and socialize this 10-year-old, and then you're surprised when you get a monster. So they keep arguing, they're arguing, and then Liz asks about Henry. So remember, Henry is Liz and Victor's childhood friend, and what I did include was that Henry's father, remember the governor, the judge told Henry's father, the governor, he was like, can you ask Henry to go look for Victor in Germany? Because Henry was going to college in England, and he hadn't been answering phone calls and texts, and people were, phone calls and letters, and people were worried about Victor. So the judge was like, can you ask your son to go look for Victor for me? And Henry was the last person to go look for Victor. Henry never came back. He touched down in Germany, and he just never heard of again. And Liz is thinking, if he could kill his own little brother, choke him to death, he could definitely kill his friend. And Victor is, he's like, Henry's alive. That's all he says. He said, Henry is alive. And if you read the book, you can tell that Victor has a very specific, calculated way of speaking. He speaks enough to tell you what you need to know, but to also shield you from the things that he doesn't want you to know. And so Liz moves on to Justine. She's like, did you kill did you kill Justine because she loved me, because we were friends basically? And Victor's like, you think I care about your relationship with Justine? You think I was so pressed? You think I was so worried, bothered about that? Because remember, Victor doesn't like anybody else to love Liz. He doesn't want her to have connections or friendships or relationships with anybody besides him. So Liz, she is right to think you would kill Justine because she loves me. But Victor, he kind of scoffs at that idea. He's like, please, you think I'm jealous of her? Justine is a non-factor to me. She doesn't add or take away from my life. She's basically a potted plant in the corner. Victor sees value in people that he wants to see value in. He sees value in Liz because she helps him. She agrees with him. She goes along with everything that she says, and she understands him. Justine was nothing to him. She's just some girl. Same way that William is basically nothing to him because he could kill his own brother. You see what I'm talking about? The man is psycho. Now that they're arguing and he's talking about Justine and William, he's kind of unraveling. He keeps going on and on about the greater good, about the plan, about the end goal. He's becoming, kind of starting to see him just like flip out kind of, but he's not in an angry yet. He's just kind of losing it, but he's getting close to anger. You can see him building up to it. And like in speaking about the plan, the greater good, he reveals that he made the monster. He's like, the monster wasn't perfect. When I created it, it became this thing that was disgusting for me to look at. I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't look at it. It was disgusting. It was nasty. It wasn't perfect. Victor's whole thing is about perfect, meticulous, precise, practical things. When he created this monster, when he tried to create life, it didn't turn out the way that he wanted it. It was not perfect. It was not beautiful. It was not what he intended. And upon seeing it, he couldn't even look at it anymore. And he just basically kept it locked up in the attic of the house. So yeah, that thing that jumped out of the window when she was burning down the house, that was the monster. He just left it. He was like, I can't even look at this thing. It disgusts me to look at you. It pains me to look at you. Even though I created you, you're not perfect. And he basically hates the monster. Liz is like, if you hate this monster so much, why are you doing its bidding? Why are you trying to make a bride for it? And Victor reveals, the monster wants someone like you. He wants his own Liz. You're my Liz. I can't give him you. He threatened to take you from me. I couldn't let him take you from me. So I had to kill Justine. Don't you get it? I had to kill Justine so that he could have his own Liz. He can't take you from me. He's basically just going crazy now. So yeah, he starts blaming her. He's like, you're not innocent in this. You should have never followed me. You could have had every opportunity to be innocent. You didn't have to know about this. You didn't have to know about my shame. Right now it's her fault, I guess. And so now Liz is super confused. She's like, what are you talking about? Like, I followed you to save you. I didn't know who this monster was. I still don't even know why you made this monster. Like, what is going on? Why did you do this? And he's like, I did it to save you. I created this monster to save you. So she's like, what do you mean save me? Like, you created a monster to save me? What are you talking about? And he's like, he reveals that since the minute that he met her, so since the time that she started to accept him and she was bought for him, that he realized that he did not want to live life without Liz because Liz was his own. She belonged to him and he didn't want to live life without her. And so he decided to focus or to think more about life and death and how to create life so that he could keep her perfect forever. This is an excerpt from the book during their argument where he explains why he created this monster and why he was trying to save her. So he goes, suffering is temporary and so are you. I almost lost you. You would have died leaving me here alone when I saw you on your sick bed because she had gotten hurt and she was sick. Inching even further out of my reach, I swore I would never let happen. You are mine. You belong to me. And I will be damned if I let the sickening frailty of flesh take you from me. Do you think I enjoyed what I had to do? I hated it. But I had to do it. All my work, all my sacrifice has been for a single purpose. I'm going to defy death. I'm going to steal the spark of creation from it to make life eternal, untouchable by corruption. And I am doing it for you. When I succeed, and I will succeed, Then you will count yourself the most blessed creature in God's earth, because you will no longer be subject to him. I will step into that place. I will be your God, Elizabeth. I will recreate you in my image, and we will have our Eden, and it will never be taken from us. So, y'all not say he crazy? Remember, Liz was bought for him. She belongs to him. He owns her. So he was thinking, if she died, I no longer own her. And he felt it was his place to make sure that that didn't happen, that she never died. And he thought, I need to be able to create life to keep Liz alive. So when she does die, I can just bring her back. Here's the thing. He doesn't think he himself will defy death. He wants to make sure that Liz never dies. He wants to make sure that she stays alive, but he's not saying anything about if he stays alive or not, if he dies or not. He has this control over her. He owns her. Remember, they bought a child for him. He's been trained since he was 10 to believe Elizabeth belongs to him. So she says what everybody's thinking, and she's like, you're mad. Like, you're crazy. Are you hearing yourself? I'm getting out of here. I'm about to leave. And he gets upset. He thought that she would understand because Elizabeth has always noticed strangeness or uncertainties or abnormalities in Victor, but she doesn't say anything because she needs to live here. There was no other place for her. Her only purpose was to survive. But now that she's starting to actually call out his imperfections and his craziness to him, now that she's calling it out to him, he's getting mad because his perfect angel, she's falling apart. She's no longer perfect because she's not saying, yes, Victor, amazing, Victor, I love this, Victor. She's no longer perfect. And he's telling her, like, you're not seeing the vision, like, you don't get it. He can't believe that his perfect angel is no longer behaving the way that she's supposed to. She's not behaving perfectly anymore. And remember, Victor loves perfect. So he's like, you're not seeing the vision, but that's okay. One day you will see it. And when you do, I'll be ready. And she's like, what's not clicking, Steven? I don't want to see the vision. I don't want to be with you. This is not happening. I'm leaving. And this man pulls out a syringe and injects her. Just like that. I don't even know if he had his back pocket. He takes out a syringe, injects her. So he injects her with a syringe. And when she wakes up, she's in a mental hospital. And she's like, what am I doing here? Victor, what's going on? And he's like, he's not ready to make her perfect yet. And she just wasn't seeing the vision. So he basically sedated her and took her to a mental hospital and told her that she was crazy. And he said that he would be back when he was ready to make her perfect. Not when she was ready to accept it, but when he had done enough training and practice enough to make her perfect. He's crazy. And the staff won't let her out because back in those times, if your husband said he was crazy, then you were crazy. And yeah, they were married, so he still had that extra ownership on her. So she couldn't even really leave if she wanted to, because your husband brought you in and said that you were crazy, and he's the son of a governor, and he has this status. We're not letting you out, basically. So it's like about a month later, she's still in this mental hospital, and she keeps like telling people about what happened, and they're all in there. Everyone in there is crazy. So they either like believe her and make up stories with her, or they just look at her like, what's wrong with you? And she's kind of like, her will is going down. And she's in her room one day, I guess she's waiting for evaluation, and a nurse comes in, and the nurse is like, you know, what's up? Like, it's a new nurse. She's like, what's up? Like, what are you in here for? And she's like, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. And the nurse is like, no, go ahead, tell me. And so she tells the nurse everything about Victor and Justine and William and stuff like that. And the nurse was like, he did all that? I can't believe he did that. I knew that guy was strange, but I didn't think he would do all of this. And then Liz is like, how do you know about Victor? And she realizes it's Mary. Mary from the bookstore? Yeah, it's Mary. So Liz is like, what are you doing here? Like, you're a nurse? Like, I'm confused. I thought you ran a bookstore. And Mary's like, no, I kept sending you letters and you weren't writing back. Then I heard about what happened to Justine in the paper, and I just had to make sure that you were okay. She's like, I can't believe that Victor did this to you, but don't worry, we're gonna get him back because I think he killed my uncle. And so remember when they went to the bookstore and Mary said that, you know, she had some books for him, and her uncle was in charge of the bookstore, and her uncle had gone missing. But Mary couldn't figure out what was happening, and she thought it had something to do with Victor, because the uncle didn't have the book when Victor wanted it, and I guess he blacked on him, and then the uncle went missing. You know how it be. I don't know. So Mary breaks Liz out of the mental hospital, and instead of running far away, they go straight to the house. Not if it was me and my husband had just killed a bunch of people and said he was gonna make me perfect by operating on me too, so that I would defy death, I would be on the first plane to wherever else, because I'm not going back there. He already sedated me and put me in a mental hospital. He killed his brother. He killed my friend. There is no way I'm going back there. But you know, I guess they knew how to fight or something. So they go back to the summer house that Victor and Liz were living in for like that one night before he put in the mental hospital, and he wasn't in there, and it was a stormy night. There was like thunder and lightning. He wasn't there, so Liz was like, we need to go check the judge's house to make sure he's okay, because so they're like, we need to check the judge's house to find Victor and to make sure the judge is okay, because during their argument, Liz had revealed that she put Justine's body back into the grave. And Victor was really upset about this, because it was like, I was operating on her, like I needed her, like now to find another body, how am I going to practice if you get rid of the bodies? And so they want to make sure the judge was okay, because if he could kill his brother, if he could kill Justine, he'll kill his father. And he was already not feeling his father because of what he did to Liz. So yeah, they should go check up on him. So when they get in the judge's house, they see that Victor has killed his father and is operating on him in a table in the kitchen. Like it's nothing. Like it's just a regular Friday night. And when they get in there, Victor's like, what are y'all doing here? Like, I'm busy, I'm working. And Liz is like, how could you kill your father? And he's like, you got rid of Justine's body. And so Mary gets tight, because Mary came there to fight. She came with her knife, and so they start tussling. Victor, Mary, and Liz, they all start tussling and whatever. And Victor's getting tight because he's waiting for the lightning to hit the house so that he can reanimate his father, but they're like getting in his way. And so they're all fighting, and Victor stabs Mary, and then there's like this shadow that flashes past the window, and it comes crashing through the window. Like this big figure comes crashing through the window, and they all start fighting. They're like, hey, what's going on? Well, at least Mary and Liz are like, hey, let me stand over here. But Victor's like, he's tight because it's the monster that came through the window. As soon as Victor realizes it's the monster, he just starts going off. What are you doing here? Get out of here. You guys are annoying me. Like, he can't, they're inconveniencing him so much right now. And again, he can't stand to look at the monster. It's not perfect. He hates looking at that monster so much. Every time he sees it, he gets tight. He's like, why are you always here? Like, geez, can you go die or something? He cannot stand that monster. So while they're arguing, Liz picks up a gun because Victor had a gun. Which, why did he have to? Maybe he shot Mary. I think he shot Mary. I don't think he stabbed her. I think he shot Mary. So Liz picks up the gun and she points at the monster. And I thought that was so stupid because Victor made the monster. The monster is not the villain here, guys. He's only come to kill Victor because he does not like Victor. I wouldn't like Victor either. You created me for no reason and then left me? What? So now Liz has the gun on the monster. And the monster looks at her and he's like, you don't have to be afraid of me. Like, I mean you no harm. And Liz starts looking at him. She's like, I know you from somewhere. You look kind of familiar. Yeah, you do too. Do you know a guy named... Oh, definitely. I know his name. I just want to let you know that he's my... Oh, no, girl. He's my... You know, basically. So Liz is looking at the monster and she's like, Henry? So now Liz turns to Victor and she's like, is the monster Henry? And he's like, I told you Henry was alive. Remember when they were arguing and he said Henry is alive? Victor had basically killed Henry when Henry came looking for him, he had killed Henry because Henry was telling him, like, hey, your family misses you. You should probably go check in on your dad. He really misses you. You're living in this dump. This is not safe. You know, I don't know what this is about. And Victor couldn't stand that Henry was judging him, so he got mad and killed him. Like, bro, like, I mean, he always had that pent-up animosity, but he just killed him. And he started operating on him. He's like, well, he's here. Might as well. Yeah, but only the eyes and the lips are Henry. So the rest of the body is a bunch of other parts from the morgue or from the grave robbings, from the grave robbings, or Mary's uncle, whose name is Felix. So basically, before Victor had killed Henry, he was trying to reanimate already dead people. So people, like people that had been dead. I'm trying to say this so that it makes sense. People that were already cold. That sounds bad. He would go to the morgue. Before Henry, Victor would go to the morgue and get like the dead bodies that they had given away or that no one had claimed, or he would rob graves and take bodies from there and try to piece them together and reanimate them. But because there was like no blood or like no kind of warmth to them, it wasn't really working the way that he wanted it to. So when he killed Henry, he was like, well, I have a body now. It's pretty fresh. This will probably be easier to reanimate. And obviously it was, because he combined them with the stuff that was already he previously had taken, and they made Frankenstein basically. So the monster is Frankenstein, and Liz calls him Henry, and Mary calls him Felix because that's her uncle's name and part of it is her uncle, but it's basically Frankenstein. So while everyone's coming to this recollection about who they are and having this little conversation, Victor, he gets tired. He's like, listen, y'all talking way too much for me. I'm supposed to be working on my dad. The lightning is coming again. I'm gonna miss it. I have things to do. He takes the gun from Liz and tries to shoot the monster, but he misses. And the monster's like, honestly, bro, there's no way you're gonna reanimate your dad tonight, because I'm gonna kill you before you do. But if you let these girls go, then I'll spare you. I won't kill you, okay? But I'm telling you right now, it's not gonna happen. So either you let them go or everybody in here die. Basically, this is what it's gonna have to be. So Victor's like, all right, I'll leave, but this is the last you heard of me. Basically, he's like, I'm coming back. Know this, I'll be back. And as he's leaving, he pushes Liz. So as he's walking away, he kind of pushes her, and she hits the table. As the lightning's hitting the table, shocks her, she gets knocked out. That girl been knocked out I don't know how many times in this story. Really only 2, but it's too many. And both times by Victor. When she wakes up, she's now with Mary and Frankenstein, who now wants to go by the name of Adam, which was like, you really trying to gas Victor up with this whole playing God thing. But he now wants to go by Adam, and they're living in, I want to say, Antarctica or Alaska, someplace with ice fishing, someplace with a lot of ice and igloos, because that's where they were. And they went really far, because remember, they were in France with Victor. They went super far. They said, he cannot find us here. If we have to live in the cold, that's where we live in. If we have to live in the ice and the snow, that's where we live in. And so now they kind of have a routine. Liz is getting back into the swing of things. She's thinking, well, there's no Victor, everything's fine. And one day they all go to the shop. They go to the market to get something. And Liz comes back early because I think she wasn't feeling well, or she just wanted to come back early. And when she gets inside the house, the igloo, Victor's in there. And he's like, hello, my wife. And I'm like, hello, my wife? So immediately, she just starts beating him up. Like, immediately. She just starts to attack him. She's trying to punch him, everything. He hits her shins. It hurts. And yeah, she's unsuccessful though. I mean, she tried. She was really in there. She was trying to get him. It didn't work. And she was like, all right. I'll go with you if you don't kill Mary and Adam. He's like, what is an Adam? And then she's like, Adam is Frankenstein. He's like, okay, whatever, I won't kill him. But she knows he's lying. So as they're leaving, she tries to make a break for it, and they tussle a little bit more, and then they fall into one of those holes where you ice fish to go down and get, yeah. They fall into the hole, into the water, and now they're kind of fighting in the water. And they're kind of like holding on to each other. And Victor's telling her, like, you're not gonna let me go, because if you let me go, we both die. And so she's like, word, let him go. She let him go instantly. She's like, I'd rather die than keep us alive. I'd rather die. Okay? That was kind of like the last straw for him. Like, he knew he had power over her, but it had been gone already. Since she found out about Frankenstein and all the stuff that he did, the power was already gone. So she let him go. And he starts floating down to the abyss, looking up at her like, you really let me go? Like, and he's basically dying, and like, she's at peace now. She's like, finally. And she just lets death take her. And then on the next page, she wakes up and it says, I'm alive. Now, the ending was good, okay? I can't tell a lie. I'm alive was cool and everything. But I just wanted more than that. I wanted to hear that Victor was dead. Dead. We saw his body. Wasn't coming back. Because presumably he drowns. But I've been fooled once before. But yeah. That's the end of the story. I presume that she went off to live with Mary and Frankenstein, and they're happy. Not Frankenstein, I'm sorry, Frankenstein, Adam, and they're happy, and that Victor is dead. Yeah. I just don't get why Justine and William had to die, like. Anyway, this was actually a really good read, and I really think that you guys should read it too, because there's stuff that I left out, stuff that happened when they were younger that kind of explains Victor more. And I just like the way that it's written and the way that Victor speaks. It's so calculated. Like, he knows exactly what to say to get you believe something that is not true, that is false. It's crazy. But yeah, that's the end of the video. Thank you guys again for watching and supporting and liking and commenting and sharing. I'm so sorry that I was gone for so long. It's just I had a lot of work to do, but finals week is over and I'm gonna be posting more. I'm gonna be on TikTok. I'm gonna be posting on TikTok. If you guys don't use TikTok, I know some of y'all don't. I'm gonna be posting on Instagram. If you don't use Instagram, that's okay, because I'll send it to you. Tell me if you guys like this kind of video series or kind of video, because I read a lot of books and I have a lot more that I could talk about. So yeah, tell me if you guys like this. Other books I should read. Should I do movies? Should I do other things? Tell me some video suggestions, some book suggestions. Oh, give me some constructive criticism. That's really important. Tell me what I could work on, what I did well, what you'd like to see. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, share. But yeah, basically that's it. Bye. Oh, stay tuned for bloopers. Okay, bye. And everything seems to be normal, but everything seems to be. So the next day they get wedding. She remembers that William was choked to death. You can get this. Networking and stuff. Anyways, hello, welcome back to the butterfly sing. Butterfly in the sky. I can fly high. Okay. Oh, let's get some thumbnails, y'all. Let's get some thumbnails.
Don't care what people say, can't bother me at
Copy
all.
it.